was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament. Flowers of the forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Pilot Officer Samuel Donald Whiteside. Samuel Whiteside was born in Canberra, Victoria, on the 28th of June 1910, the second of three children born to Samuel Whiteside and Margaret MacDonald. He grew up in rural South Gippsland. Known as Don, he attended St Joseph's Catholic Primary School and St Patrick's College, and was a keen sportsman, enjoying cricket, Australian rules football, handball and shooting. Whiteside served as a corporal in the militia, parading part-time with the 29th Battalion. At the outbreak of the Second World War, he was working on the family dairy farm, supplying milk to the local butter factory. Samuel Whiteside enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 4th of June 1941. After completing initial training at Victor Harbour, he mustered as a navigator and was posted to No. 2 Air Observer School in Mount Gambier, South Australia. In April, he attended bombing and air gunnery school at Sale and finished the Australian component of his training at Nihil in Victoria. He received his navigator's brevet on the 28th of May 1942. Now a sergeant, Don embarked for overseas service on the 24th of August. A shortage of troop ships meant he and fellow airmen stopped in South Africa for 2 months. They finally reached England in mid-November 1942. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, air gunners and flight engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. After attending Advanced Observer Flying School in Scotland, Whiteside joined an operational training unit. At RAF Litchfield, Whiteside crewed up. This was a self-selecting process of placing all different trades of aircrew into one room and allowing them to sort themselves into crews. As navigator, Whiteside's crew consisted of 4 other Australians and 2 British airmen. At 32, Whiteside was the oldest. The other crew ranged in age from 19 to 29 years. The final stage of their training was a conversion course to operate the Avro Lancaster heavy bomber. After this school, in January 1943, Whiteside received a commission and was made pilot officer. After 2 full years of training, the crew was posted to No. 460 Squadron at RAF Binbrook on the 15th of September 1943 and began operational flying almost immediately. Based in Lincolnshire, the squadron took part in bombing operations over enemy-occupied territory in Europe. Whiteside's first mission took place a week after joining his new squadron, when his crew attacked the German city of Mannheim. Mannheim was a railway junction and a manufacturing centre important to the enemy's war industry. The attack was a success and resulted in the destruction of multiple industrial sites. On the 3rd of October 1943, the crew flew G for George on a mission targeting Kassel. It was George's 59th mission. The Lancaster returned to Australia during the war and is now part of the collection of the Australian War Memorial. Over the months that followed, Whiteside and his crew were involved in numerous attacks to target and destroy the enemy's war manufacturing efforts. They had completed 18 raids, 6 of which were to Berlin. No. 460 Squadron flew the most sorties of any Australian bomber squadron and is credited with dropping more bombs, tonnage, than any squadron in Bomber Command. It also suffered the greatest number of casualties of any Australian squadron. While 2% of Australians' enlistments during the Second World War flew with Bomber Command, they accounted for almost 20% of the personnel killed in action. On the night of January 27, 1944, Whiteside's crew in Lancaster JB 637 took off from RAF Binbrook to bomb Berlin. Nothing more was heard from the aircraft after takeoff, and it did not return to base. 18 aircraft from the squadron took part in the raid. 3 of these, including JB 637, failed to return. Posted as missing, families began an anxious wait for news. Nearly 8 months later, the casualty section of the RAAF advised the family that all efforts to trace Whiteside and his crew had failed, and that all hope of finding them alive must be abandoned. In 1950, RAAF headquarters stated with regret that it had not been possible for them to locate or visit Whiteside's grave, which was within the Russian zone of occupation. The names of the crew were to be included on a memorial to the missing at Runnymede. In 1951, however, the family finally received news. It had been determined that Whiteside and his crew had been shot down by a German night fighter on the night of the 27th of January 1944, crashing at Strucken, southwest of Berlin, and had been buried nearby. Don was 33 years old. His fellow crew members are buried alongside him. British Sergeants Andrew Mackenzie and Alan Wortley, and Australian crew Warrant Officer Richard Power, Flight Sergeants Ernest Hurley and John Worley, and Pilot Officer James Kirby. Today, Don's remains rest in the Berlin 1939 to 1945 War Cemetery under the inscription, "Loved son of the late Mr. and Mrs. S. Whiteside, Corumburra, Victoria. Rest in peace." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Pilot Officer Samuel Don Whiteside, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.